Hello, thanks for joining us on your channel of choice at this time, Africa Independent Television, AIT. Welcome to Focus Nigeria, your program in which we put the searchlight on topical issues in the politics. My name is Benga. I'm really glad to be here this Monday morning. Another week has begun, and so many things are already on the timeline for this week. First, the ones that will not happen. Let me tell you the ones that will not happen. The 2018 budget is far from being ready. In fact, when the National Assembly resumes this week, it will not be for plenary. Rather, probably it will be for the different committees to resume work on the interrogation of the facts and figures ascribed to the ministries, the departments, and agencies of government. Plenary is not due until next week. So, that's that. Very little work has actually been done on the budget, and so very little achieved because the MDAs have not come fully to defend their allocations. But the big one this week, the one that will likely happen, is the rerun election scheduled by INEC for Anambra Central Senatorial District. That is this Saturday, January 13. In taking that decision to hold the rerun this weekend, the INEC board, which met last December, said it had decided to obey and bow to the superior judgments of 3 different courts of appeal panels, all of which have said the election of Uche Ekwunife was null and void because she did not emerge from any primary known to law, and that the PDP did not conduct any primaries according to the INEC, the Electoral Act, the INEC guidelines for the 2015 general elections, and even the guidelines issued by the PDP itself in 2014 for the 2015 election. In fact, the Court of Appeal Enugu Division, which acted as the final court on National Assembly election petitions in the petition of Victor Ume, actually ordered a rerun election within 90 days. And that court being the final authority on election matters, INEC believes that standing on that authority as against the recent decision of a Federal High Court in Abuja is more reasonable on the long run. And so, INEC has continued its preparations for Saturday's rerun, January 13, as I said. But as a new development now, late last year, Dr. Obiora Okonkwo, who was one of the claimants to the PDP ticket for the senatorial district, had gotten a judgment of a Federal High Court here in Abuja, which directed INEC to issue him a certificate of return so that he could be sworn in to replace Uche Ekwunife. Okonkwo said he and not Ekwunife won the primaries conducted by the PDP. The big issue here is that that judgment of Justice John Soho is said to be a consent judgment in which all the parties, including INEC, represented by a council, had done in the hearing, agreed to be bound by the outcome. So it's a consent judgment. Now, the effect of a consent judgment is that any party who is thereafter dissatisfied cannot legally seek to repudiate it by going on appeal. But that takes us back to whether the issues determined by Justice John Soho in the first place, John Soho is a Federal High Court judge, whether the issues decided by him had not been determined long ago by 3 superior courts. And if so, can a High Court judge then, one judge, sitting alone, give a decision that amounts to setting aside the decision of a panel of 3 or 5 justices of a court of appeal, a higher court, 3 or 4 justices, 5 justices sitting together as against one man sitting as a high court judge. All of these are the issues thrown up by this Anambra saga, the plan of INEC to hold the rerun election this Saturday, and the very reason why we keep discussing this issue. This Wednesday, a Federal High Court judge, Justice Quadri, is the latest one to be asked to do something about this case. He's a vacation judge, I'm told. I hear he has summoned all the parties to appear before him again on Wednesday, and all the parties include INEC. And this is at the instance of a fresh application by Dr. Obiora Okonkwo, who is seeking to enforce Justice John Soho's order. So hopefully, INEC should have the opportunity and the chance to defend his actions and of course present all the different judgments and decisions before Justice Quadri for him to again take his own decision. So the Anambra Central Senatorial rerun this Saturday, to be or not to be, Justice Quadri will tell us on Wednesday, and you can be sure that I plan to be in that court that day at least to learn more about the facts so as to be able to lead the discussions arising from there on this platform subsequently. Okay? Right, what else is new this week? Well, the Nigerian military has been on a serious offensive against the Boko Haram insurgents in the Lake Chad region. It's been a most successful operation so far, as attested to by these pictures that you are seeing on your screen. The destructions unleashed on the insurgents is massive. Many of them killed, many of them wounded, and their operational weapons and vehicles captured, as we are seeing in some of the pictures. Those are the ones we could manage to show you. There are more gory pictures of the Boko Haram insurgents who have been completely annihilated. Well, like I said, we don't want to insult your sensibility, so we've kept those ones away from you. Now, a factional leader of the insurgents, Mama Nur, is said to also have been fatally wounded in the several days of bombardment. But he managed to escape to the Chad sector. Hopefully his days are numbered. So from here, kudos to our gallant soldiers, and the days of the insurgents, or whatever is left of them, are definitely numbered. Now, can I just add that two other running sores we need to attend to in similar military fashion are those of the marauding herdsmen who are creating a pogrom of some sort in Benue, in Adamawa, parts of Kaduna. I think here is spreading gradually down south now in Edo. One incident was reported at the weekend. And then, of course, the court war in Rivers State. The military authorities must step up action in these areas to bring the perpetrators to book. Same military action is required to end the court killings going on in Rivers State. The state government has been engaging more in rhetorics and innuendos with very flippant responses to calls on it to act. The Bado court activities that the Rivers government is always quick to cite has almost become a thing of the past in the Lagos state, because the state government cooperated with the security agencies and empowered them to act decisively. Maybe because the government has no dogs in the Bado court activities. But can the same be said of a state that openly campaigns against the police and even deploys resources to mobilize citizens against the police? Anyway, but good news this morning. Men of the DSS and the military, we are told, have been able to launch a successful military operation which has yielded very good results. The leaders of the court group that are responsible for the killings in Omoku in Rivers State, which the masterminded that New Year crossover day, in which 21 people or more were killed in Omoku. That leader of that court group, one is it Don or Dan Wayne or whatever, and two of his lieutenants, Ikechukwu Adele and one Lucky Ode, have been killed. Good news. This happened during an encounter in his new base in Enugu. After wreaking havoc in Port Harcourt, he ran to Enugu as a safe haven. And there we are told he was already planning how he was going to unleash terror in Rivers State again. The dead bodies of the notorious gang members were brought to Port Harcourt yesterday, along with items recovered from them, which include weapons and, of course, wait for it, at least 10 human skulls. The DSS and the military are continuing their mop-up operations to get other members of this notorious court gang. Again, what can we say? Thumbs up to our military and the DSS too for this very heroic feat. Okay, our discussion is up next. Barrister Silas Onu and Abba Ejembi will both be joining me for today's conversation as we put 2017 in review, and of course we drag in 2018, our expectations for 2018, of course, coming from 2017, the issues that created a lot of hiccups for us. How far have we dealt with them? Have we sufficiently dealt with them? And of course, what are the likely issues for this year? Great year, it promises to be, because it's the year preceding election. So many pre-election cases. How ready is the judiciary, for instance? My guest, Mr. Silas Onu and Abba Ejabi will be joining me for the discussions shortly.
We should reach out and work in partnership with civil society, with the private sector, with foundations, with philanthropies, focusing on the need of the individual. Yes, states are important and their concerns are important, but at the end of the day, it is the citizens and the individual needs which are important. Huge problems like genocide begins with one individual, the humiliation of one individual. And so the focus on individuals and people is the right one. And if we work in partnership and we all do our little bit collectively, we will make a giant contribution.
We see a completely non-racial society. We don't believe, for instance, in the so-called guarantees for minority rights, because guaranteeing minority rights implies the recognition of portions of the community on a race basis. We believe that in our country there shall be no minority, there shall be no majority, there shall just be people. And those people will have the same status before the law, and they will have the same political rights before the law. So in a sense, it will be a completely non-racial egalitarian society.
They see chaos and conflicts. We see community action for good governance. They see poverty and want. We see perseverance and the will to go on. They see economic law. We see the ingenuity and creative spirit of our people. We are AIT News, fresh, authentic views of Africa. How would you rather see the world? AIT News, all sides, all the time.
It makes no difference to me really whether I win this election or not. I want you to believe me, and I'm not talking politics. For 25 years of my life, I fought for the freedom of Nigeria. Nigeria will attain independence on October 1, 1960. So it makes no difference to me whether the Sardauna or Balewa or Chief Awolowo or myself will become the first prime minister. So long as Nigeria is free, I'll be satisfied.
Okay, if you're just joining us, a very warm welcome to you. We're starting the conversation now because my guests are here. Let me introduce Mr. Silas Joseph Onu, he's a legal practitioner. What's this one I'm seeing? House of Reps aspirant. Hey, it's too early.
It's not true.
They will take you out.
It's not true. Primaries
if you show your house too early.
April. You have to start now.
No, the primary is not in April.
April, May. INEC have said primary should hold between 14th of April and 15th
No,
of May.
INEC denied that statement, that it didn't.
They recanted.
Yes, that thing didn't originate from them. You know Nigeria, we are capable of
the whole nation is already working on that.
No. It's not possible. Because that would mean that you hold primaries a year before the election.
Yeah.
No, that's not how INEC works.
Did they deny the
INEC
election?
INEC
Denied the election for February?
No, they confirmed that.
The two stories came out together.
No, they didn't.
They are different dates.
They didn't. Please. So don't show your hands too early.
My hands are out already.
So that your enemies don't cut it.
No, they can't cut it. They are out already.
Anyway, I wish you well.
Thank you.
And you know why I pity you, because you are going back to the PDP.
Well, like I said, anywhere you're loyal to somebody,
I know.
where the person goes.
That's
to,
why you shouldn't show your hands too early.
Well, you have to come early before they say you didn't tell us.
Okay, if you don't want to take my advice.
You didn't tell us. We have already endorsed this person.
I said no problem. Don't take my advice. You will come back and thank me later that I said so. Anyway, good to see you. Happy New Year.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Happy New Year.
Basa Abba HMB is also here. He's also a legal practitioner. Several years of active duty in the civil society. Then public service is back to a familiar terrain. Good to see you. I hope you are not going for any political office too.
I take your advice.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Anyway, good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Yes. Is there any reason why 2018 should not be a successful year for Nigeria and for Nigerians?
How do you mean successful for Nigeria and Nigerians?
Is there any reason why we should be apprehensive about 2018?
Of course, there are many reasons because, first of all, we have a budget that is still being thrown around. We are not certain of a budget. The budget was roundly condemned by the Senate. You started the year in bloodbaths, you know, and
we ended 2017 on a crisis note, the crippling
petroleum
fuel problem.
And then you're opening 2018 in bloodbath and in a situation where citizens no longer trust their leaders, believing that there is a kind of connivance between governments and those who attack. And you have a situation where the head of your security agency, the police, will reduce an attack into a situation of like two fighting. He said it's a communal clash. Now, I would suppose that a communal clash will be defined to say this community and this community, and that this community attacked this one, burnt 3 houses, killed 1 person, then there was a reprisal. But here we find a community that is not based or known in Benue invading a community, killing them, and not even losing one of their own members, they themselves. So you don't call that a communal clash. So we are in a year where we're starting with so much disconnect. And we do hope that as the year goes on, because you find that the social media is awash with call for changing the change, you know, and that it seems government have failed to keep their promises and have also lost touch with governance, because really there is no reason why we should start a year with such commotion, deaths everywhere, and understand that even yesterday there were more attacks in Benue, and communities were attacked around the boundary of Taraba, Benue. So it seems like the lives that we're losing are not really important, or we don't think they're humans for us to act. I will suggest that the presidency consider sending the military to Benue State. When you find issues like IPOB, for example, Nnamdi Kanu last year, just an armless group that are agitating for sovereignty or a state of Biafra, but I've not seen any evidence of them carrying arms. The military invaded his home, and his whereabouts is still unknown till today. However, you find a situation where people, well sophisticated, carrying arms that even our military don't use, invading a community, and the government will send police. So there's some sort of double standard here. You're sending police to forestall heavily armed criminals that are in the group. And then you send soldiers to quell just a group that are agitating for right. They are known. These ones are not even known. The police are not trained for such, they're not trained for warfare.
Okay, maybe we should put that on the template now as one of the issues we need to probably join government in providing solution, because this year it shouldn't just be about criticism. It's about where we identify a problem and we think government is not doing enough. From the views of the session, every session we have here, we should be able to arrive at some concrete takeaways for government. That how about trying these options that you have not tried before? How about fine-tuning this one that you have tried but didn't look at it from this perspective?
And Benga, the worst is that these suggestions have been made throughout last year. Some have called for restructuring as a pathway to securing the country. And then you come into a new year and the president is telling you no to restructuring. by his speech. That is essentially what he's saying. And
He gave an alternative, which is also restructuring.
That alternative.
He talked. A lot of people, probably because they are not, we didn't have a floor to canvass it. A lot of people will also tell you that, yes, there's a lot of merit in what the president said. It's not so much about the structures. The little that we have, how have we made it work? For instance, we are talking about restructuring, give this to. Is there anything stopping any state governor, for instance, in investing in agriculture like some states are doing, rather than spend all the money on security votes and some other jamborees? There are so many things that the 36 states of the federation can do without necessarily waiting for the structure that are already allowed other count states, for instance.
If a system,
I actually want us to be very structured.
If a system allows the happening of certain things, human beings are more prone to abusing systems. First of all, the system we operate now encourage corruption, encourage abuse of power.
So how are you going to restructure corruption out of
the system? When you restructure the system, now you come to the center to collect money every month. Now, a lot of people, when they collect this money, they didn't work for it. They see it as an entitlement. All they need to do is pay salary, and then the rest, they look for one project in their locality and commence.
Yes, but there are citizens in those states. It is for them to agitate on their respective states.
Citizens who do not feel that he has contributed.
Before we begin to deal with these issues, your opening, on that general note, I think the narrative has been overtaken by the very large numbers involved and the role the state government in Benue State played in dealing with the issue, bringing it, making it a major issue, placing it on the front burner. There were 2 other killings in Benue on the 24th of December. In Otukpo local government in a village called Odonto in Akpa district. In the early hours of 24th December, this same group of individuals went there, murdered 2 women, a woman and a man, opened fire on the community. It's a small community. Preceding that attack, on the 13th of December was a report by some Fulani herdsmen that 2 of their men from phone conversation must have disappeared close to that community. They lodged a complaint at the area command in Otukpo. The area command invited the community, the vigilante, the leader of the vigilante, who incidentally is also the national national secretary of the Akpa Community Development Association. And I ordered him to bring his men. It took some days, and I think on the 17th or 18th of December, he took 6 of the people there, 1 female and 5 males. The female was allowed to go. The other 5 were detained. The next day moved to the state command in Makurdi, where they were kept until after about 7 days before they eventually released, I think, on the 22nd. And on the 24th, there was this attack in the same community. Well, meanwhile, while these people were detained, were arrested, they were taken to the country with the Fulani herdsmen, where they searched everywhere. The Fulani herdsmen are pinpointed where there were roadblocks, checkpoints that they alleged. The police went there, with the community leaders and the Fulani. There were no roadblocks, no sign. And they checked about security arrangements in the community. How many vigilantes do you have here? They said they have no vigilante group in that village. Indeed, it's a bigger village called Adim that has the vigilante that covers that territory and hardly goes there. So those killings happened, and as they left on the 24th, the police went, they evacuated the corpses, to evacuated the people who were injured to the hospital in Otukpo. And at about 11:30 to 12, the police, the DSS, the civil defense, the local government chairman, Honorable George Otukpo local government chairman, went to go to the village to go and assess the situation. And they were confronted. They saw the attackers fully armed. And they had to make a detour because they were not armed. Not more than 2 hours later, or less than that, Utonkon is quite a large settlement, was attacked by the same group on motorcycles. So That happened on the 24th of December. Don't also forget the Numan killings that started sometime around October and persisted until December. So it is not correct to say that this year opened with bloodbath and last year ended with just fuel scarcity. It was more than that. There was bloodbath all over the country and it was carried over to this year. Now, as to what expectations are for this year, when you do human rights,
because
when
from
yes,
the narratives of
yes.
both of you,
When-
security has become one issue.
if you recall,
For
if
2018,
not even just 2018.
and because it's a year preceding election.
Yes, that was the point I was going to make.
It assumes wider dimensions.
Yes, if you do human rights monitoring, you will discover that the year preceding elections all over Africa, but more particularly in Nigeria, the level of crime goes up and they are related to political activities. Armed attacks, you find them everywhere. You find kidnapping, you find political illegalism, you find murder, you find a lot of things like that happening. So this year, security is going to be a major challenge. And having been a major challenge from the preceding year, in fact, the preceding how many years now, it means that in this year, the security arrangement must be up to scratch. Otherwise, Nigeria is going to become a free-for-all. I hope that that doesn't happen, because as this year has opened with the kind of situation on fire, and if you recall the last time we were here, and you were raising the issue about the economy being the determinant, and I disagreed. And I said, what is going to determine the next election is going to be the security arrangement, because Nigerians are beginning to feel that certain individuals or certain groups in Nigeria are protected, while other groups are not considered as proper Nigerians.
Let's talk
add a
about the
little-
security issue.
Yes.
What do we need to do in those flashpoints of security? If we start with the Northeast, for instance, we saw the military in very active duties again. The last
Sorry,
couple
Benga,
of
if Silas will permit me. One of the things that we saw from your report,
Yes.
we saw that the military was involved even in going after cultists.
In Rivers.
Yes, in Rivers.
Yes, the
Transcending
military
collaborated with the
with the
State
DSS.
Security Service
With the DSS.
and transcended another state. In fact,
from
Chris
Port
Paul from
Harcourt
Cross River
to
through
Enugu.
Abia, through Imo to Enugu, following
Yeah.
the things by the State Security Service,
yeah.
and was able to carry out what is considered a success.
Yeah.
Now, if you have such a situation, calling in the military to deal with cultism, cultist groups are not that widespread, like what we have seen with regard to the attacks by these herdsmen. Why is it taking the federal government all of these years not to deploy troops? And that is the point people are making. If you follow the letter by Professor Yois Lehaye, for instance, if you have seen it, there is an angst in the land. People are feeling that they are not considered human beings in their own land, that other people, their hands are tied behind their backs. That is a dangerous thing to happen.
But Salazar,
Yes.
we need to look at what is happening in the Benue, Plateau, Nasarawa, Tough.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a very fertile region. So everybody converges there. Everybody, the farmers, the herders. All over time, years pass. These communities have always lived together. Both the natives and the herders who take advantage of the vegetation of the area. They've always lived together peacefully. Whenever they had problems, they had leaders from both sides who usually come together and resolve such crises. It has not always been this violent. But what led to the fact that suddenly both sides decided that whenever anything happens, they take the laws onto their hands, they become judge onto
Sorry,
themselves.
is it both sides?
Let me.
It has to be
both
please,
sides?
Abba, I don't want to follow the narrative that a Fulani, I don't want to use that word Fulani. I don't want to take the narrative that herdsmen will just wake up and go and attack when nothing has happened to them. We've had results, even in this one that we are discussing about. The herdsmen have come out to say that what is prompting this reprisal in code is that as many as 800 cows
Yes.
I've been seeing.
All right, good.
And if you know the full animal,
Those cows are, it's not the size of mosquito.
Sorry, you
800
know why I want to
disappear.
restrict you here, because I know that.
I'm involved.
Yes, so I need to temper you a little bit.
Thank you.
He is not that involved, so I'll probably give you more
Every
freedom.
Nigeria, everybody, every
Yes,
human being is involved.
but we should look at the two cases. Somebody should also be bold enough to speak for the herdsmen. If you know the, sorry, please. I live in a place in Abuja where I share a community with Fulani herdsmen. Fulani herdsmen surround me. They have their community.
Canberra?
No. In this Abuja, they have their settlements around me. If I peep from my window, I'm looking at them. Weekends, I go to greet them. They give me things and all that. So I understand the psychology of the Fulani man and his cow. In fact, the cow to the Fulani man is not an animal. It's his family.
All right,
So when a cow is lost or killed, he sees it as if his family has been killed. And that is the psychology. We need to also... Please, Abba, please. Let me allow you.
That being said...
yes, that being said,
I like
how do we bring these two sides to live together the same way they have always lived together, resolve their issues without resorting to violence?
Now, violence has become the way out because government has failed to be responsible when it comes to security. Over the years, our government have taught that security has to just do with policing and deploying of army, buying arms. The last time I came here, remember I talked about food security. Security encompasses a lot, including environmental security. Now, this herdsman crisis has its origin with climate change. These are cattle rearers whose domain in the north is drying up.
Exactly.
Now, it is drying up and they are moving into the south where they will find greener vegetation.
Yes.
Now,
so there's bound to be clashes.
Now, as they move, they invade people's farm. The southerners are majorly farmers now. From Benue up, they're farmers.
Exactly.
So as they move with their cattle, they invade farms as if they're just eating grass.
Exactly.
Now, conflicts are bound to arise. Now, conflicts are bound to arise. There was a time I did a small article saying that the herdsmen crisis is potentially more dangerous than the Boko Haram, because Boko Haram is within a defined territory, but the herdsmen are not within a defined territory. They are scattered
anywhere where they see grass.
They are scattered all around the country. They're scattered all around the country, and then they have now been identified as the fourth most dangerous group in the world. And shockingly, up till today, even with the international identification, Nigerian government have not designated the group as a terrorist organization because they are terrorizing communities. I would like to see the government say, let's distinguish between cattle rearers and herdsmen.
How do you do that?
Because at a time, we saw the Miyetti Allah people claiming that the violent ones came from Niger, they came from outside, they are not part of them. All those arguments were canvassed. But the government still failed to nip it at the bud. If they are from Niger, if they are from neighboring countries, and you know those that are farming. When I went to the village this Christmas, I engaged a Fulani man. I saw him riding his cattle. He came to eat. Then I sat with him in the place. He was conversing with the ladies. And then I spoke outside with him. I said, "Where is your cow?" He told me they were somewhere. He called the place in my language, that the cows were there. I said, "So if I buy cows and give you, can you rear them for me?" He said he has plenty people's own from the community that he rears. Now, in my heart, I was like, these are the people that will turn around later and come and kill communities. So I said, well, let me not paint every one of them with the same brush. This man seems nice. When he finished, as he was leaving, he told us bye-bye in my dialect, meaning he has stayed there for a very long time. So I would still want to believe that those that are carrying arms are not the ones that have always been within the communities with people. Perhaps they feel a stronger urge to fight for their people, who they feel are being refused access to green vegetation, so they want to take it by force. And then there's a theory
that those headers you see who carry arms
yes.
are actually the rustlers,
Good.
who probably have a few cows. They carry arms in order to also be able to steal from fellow.
So you see the story.
Because
The story.
I've been excluded from this conversation.
Sorry, let me just land. Let me land.
These are arguments. These are theories.
Yeah, no,
that we also cannot gloss over.
The story is.
I will allow you.
But I've been excluded.
No, you are not excluded. No, you are not excluded. I will allow you. I will allow you. Don't worry.
The issue is so convoluted that you don't know which is which. And this is where we expect the security agencies to draw a clear line to say these people are this.
From intelligence gathering.
Tell us that we are going after those with arms. And then let us know identify those cattle breeders that are within communities, know them, know their cattle, give them areas. The president, people have been accusing him of silence. Do you know the president is a cattle rearer? He ranches his own.
Exactly.
So if he ranches,
so why can't he?
Why can't he lead the movement for ranching?
Why can't the president, as himself as a headsman, who is not itinerant but has a ranch,
why can't he start the movement for ranching nationwide?
Lead the revolution for ranching. Those are solutions that we need to talk about. Not this
is the point I'm making.
And all of that.
The president has a ranch, and he goes there. We see him take picture in his ranch.
And he should be the poster boy for the campaign for ranching.
And once you're president, Miyetti Allah makes you their life patron. So he has also Goodluck was, Obasanjo was. Now he is. He can use that position to call them and encourage them to go into ranching. You can even use create some form of loan from CBN to encourage them to ranch. When I went, the cows I saw in the south, I'm telling you, I intentionally looked for cows. They were very big.
I saw when I went to the village for New Year. I saw some in my village. I said, no, this can't be cows.
They were big.
I'm telling you.
Now, if you see the cows in the north, they are thin. They are not that big. So if you see the ones in the south, you will now see the reason why this crisis is happening. So if you have ranches, they can bring in food for their cattle in the ranch, and the cattle will still grow this big.
I even see a lot of business enterprise in this. Abba, you have the floor.
Thank you very much.
But please don't inflame passion.
No. Have I attempted to inflame passion? I've placed facts the way I saw them. And first to start, you see, to have a proper understanding of what is going on, part of it is what you alluded to. But this movement, no matter what happens, unless there is ranching, this movement will continue. In 2001, I had the opportunity. I was then with Ibrahim Buba, now Justice Ibrahim Buba, in Kaduna, and I had to go as far as the Mambila Plateau with MB Tukur, who is today the secretary at the Federal Character Commission. He was representing Miyetti Allah. I was representing the Sadauna chiefdom, who at the time was headed by Fulani man. So our interests were almost similar, and so we had to work together. Now, it gave me a clear understanding of what has been going on, even on the Mambila. As far back as 1982, the first conflict of that magnitude happened on the Mambila Plateau, where there was this communal clash. And because I was looking at the issue from the perspective of the Fulanis, I also interacted with a lot of them. It gave me a clear understanding that a lot of these conflicts are even avoidable. If people are talking to themselves, the communities you find in Benue, the Fulani communities that have been resident in the place, resident in the sense that some of them are even itinerant, but in the dry season they move back. During the rainy season they move out. But they have this understanding with the people. And even during this spate of killings, they are still resident there, receiving protection from the communities in Benue because they have become part and parcel of the community. There's a lot that we can build on this, a lot of understanding. Where the problem is, first in the president's New Year address, the failure to mention the problem that the herdsmen have become. And it is not these ones that are resident with the people. If you go to Tukpo today, you find Fulani communities doing their businesses all over. Nobody is talking about this one. But these ones come from outside. These ones, even the Fulani communities in the places don't like what is going on. a lot of them cannot also speak out.
So what is the motive of those ones who come from outside?
It's part of it that
What
you
is the
say.
motive?
It's part of it
Because
to
the
say.
motive cannot just be
A lot of them have no cattle. The
Exactly,
ones
they
who come,
to
they don't have
rustle.
cattle. So in a sense, it's
So
an
the
economic...
motive is to come and rustle.
rustle.
So the herdsmen too are themselves
And sometimes,
victims.
yes, that's the point I'm making.
No,
the
sorry,
herdsmen themselves are
can
victims
we-
in the sense that
sorry, can
even
we
when they give
distinguish- can we
information...
call the ones that are peaceful
when they-
breeders?
yes.
Because now
When-
if you say herdsmen, people just
No, but
paint
they are
you as a
herdsmen.
violent
It's
person.
just-
They are all
There are
herdsmen,
violent
right?
ones and there
They
are the
all
ones that
herdsmen.
are not
The
violent.
only thing I hate is
The
tagging
ethnic-
them as Fulani
No,
herdsmen.
Because
not
if you say
necessarily.
herdsmen, people
Not
just
necessarily.
see you
For
violently.
instance,
I like to call them
in the
cattle
community I'm
breeders.
talking about, that I referred to on the 24th of December, that there was this killing. That is where David Mark, the former Senate president, has his own cattle. He has his farm. And a lot of the Fulani people who have been resident in that area gravitate there. They attend school. One of them, I understand, is about the best student in mathematics in the Federal Government College in Otobi. One of those ones who grew up in the community. So there's a lot of, these are the ones that people should build on. And quite a number of these Fulani herdsmen who are resident in these communities are also afraid to give information. Because when they give out information, they tell me. So I had conversation with one of them. They reveal their identities. They don't feel sufficiently protected to give information. If the security agencies work with the resident Fulani herdsmen, you will discover that they'll have a lot of information. They don't like what is going on because it's affecting their own business and their relationships. Some of them have lived there for 2 generations, going and coming. When they have their naming ceremonies, you see community people gravitating there, and they too, vice versa. So there's been a lot of understanding over time. The point we are making is that these violent ones, these criminals, must be brought to account. That's the point. And the refusal to bring them to account simply lumps all of them community, which is not. So I believe that the way forward for the this is their business. Because government has seen that it is a potentially violent, it's something that affects the security and the order of the nation, to make a fund available where these people can access, and maybe even non-interest, so that you can solve this problem. Otherwise, it will get to a point. What is now happening is that almost all over the country, or particularly from the Middle Belt down south, people are beginning to tag every Fulani man as an enemy. This is not helpful.
It's not helpful.
The nation, the leadership of the nation must help to reunite us by isolating the ones who are violent and dealing with them, and also solving the problem. And this is where the Minister of Agriculture, and I think that was what the Minister of Agriculture, in his own thing, thought that he was trying to solve by going to import grass from Brazil. What he should have done was to also invest and make other community members stakeholders. If you empower people, if you allow community members who are not herders to be involved in grass growing, and then become a business, you know, also provide the loan. And from the same fund, people who want to grow the grass go to access non-interest, and then they pay back, they make money from it. They will in turn begin to protect the people who buy from them. So the community will then synergize. It means that the livelihood of the cattle, which is dependent on the grass, everybody becomes stakeholder.
So the cattle doesn't go to eat the farms.
The cattle doesn't have to go, and then you make money. So I believe
the herdsmen don't pay for the grass.
They say some of them take 3 months.
So they don't pay for it now.
I'm told that the potted grass is high yielding. If you plant in 3 months, you'll be surprised.
You can begin to harvest.
It is not easy to tell someone who has been enjoying free grass that you start paying for grass.
No, it's not even free.
Sorry, we need to structure the advice now. First of all, Mr. President himself
must make a categorical statement.
As a breeder, first of all, has to start by making the categorical statement about.
He must address the nation on this issue.
Okay, you said he has to
address the nation on this issue and roll out a plan.
Because his silence is being misinterpreted as he is supporting his people.
His body language, that his body language is in support. So if you
know that, then 3,
the umbrella body
as a breeder, and
must work with the umbrella body.
Because he's also ranching, he must also be the poster boy
with
the
Miyetti Allah
chief campaigner
to encourage
the
them
chief
to
campaigner
ranch.
for ranching,
Yes.
using his model.
Yes.
And then, of course,
But
you
the
talked
immediate
about,
need.
you're talking about the Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes, the
We need
Ministry
to
of
bring the
Agriculture
Ministry of Agriculture and
working
Central
together
Bank
with the
in.
central
ministry
bank
need
to
to know-
create a fund where both the headers and those who will cultivate the grass, the farmers, can have access
It's
to
not just about-
to non-interest loans,
It's not just
so that
about
we can solve
grass.
the problem. But the immediate need is to deploy troops and guarantee safety, security in the areas. For instance, in Adamawa, in the Numan area, this has been going on for months now. I hear that troops were deployed. Policemen were taken there. It appears not to have worked. In Benue since Agatu, and even before, since 2013, this has been going on. They need to deploy troops
That's my
and
worry too.
guarantee
Whether if we
security.
deploy troops, whether it's also not going to
Counterproductive.
be counterproductive.
But we need to-
Because I remember what happened in Zaki Biam.
Yes.
Don't forget.
No.
what happened in Zaki Biam.
Zaki Biam, what happened in Zaki Biam was an isolated case,
Let's not
just
lose-
like in Odi, in
You
Zaki
see, because we
Biam. So
must
they are
be very
isolated.
careful
Let's not
in
lose-
deploying
as we're
military
making- as
to
we're making
everywhere.
solutions, I
Yes,
think we should-
we are
we should-
suggesting
yeah.
solutions.
Now, if you look
now.
at- if you look
First
at
of
the
all,
north-
it's been said
Yeah.
that the cows that are reared from the north to the south are the worst species in the world. The reason is because of all
The
the
trekking.
long trekking,
Yes.
the meat
They
become
lose their
very
fat.
tough, they don't have fat,
Yeah.
and it's the worst. The worst. That's why we cannot export meat.
Yeah, beef.
But if we can't export beef,
Yeah.
but if we ranch them, like the ones I saw in my town.
Go
when
to
I went
the
for
those ones in Ekiti are
Now-
lean.
now-
Compared
They are
to
lean.
they are lean. Go to the Mambila Plateau.
Let me tell
That
you
is
something.
where you see cattle
cow in the real
in the
form.
real sense,
Yeah.
looking beautiful.
Looking like elephants.
After weeks of being on the Mambila Plateau, when I came down, and when you're on the when people actually say I went down because it's a very
That's
high.
the height.
Yeah. So when I came down, every cattle I saw for more than a month
Will look
were
like a
looking
dog to
emaciated to me. Looking highly emaciated.
It's
So
not
we need to
just
borrow
about-
from that.
so-
Even
so-
the
so-
Greeks,
So the president needs to
to
ginger
address
his
the
team.
nation.
The minister of agri has a role to play.
For the
and all
minister
that.
of Agri,
you were going
for
to add
example,
more.
yeah,
Yes.
it's not just a grass issue. Like I said, it's a climate change issue. It's not just about grass. They also need where their cattle can drink water. Now you see the Lake Chad is drying up. What are we doing about it? It doesn't belong to Nigeria. Countries around it, the government need to do something about the lake. If it has to dredge it,
Every
whatever
year
they
we talk at the level of
It-
the
it's
AU,
dry-
I think there's always this conference about
The
about
Lake Chad Basin.
pumping water from one place to the Lake Chad.
it's drying up.
And I'm wondering whether that's not
and
becoming...
that used to be like the hub of herdsmen. You go around there, you find green
Even
vegetation.
fishermen.
Good, you find green vegetation
even
around there.
fishermen.
They can eat the grass there and drink water in the lake. Now that lake is drying up. Now you go down south, you find rivers, you find green grass. So these are the issues. If you want to ranch within a community, go there. The local government will be more than happy to give you a piece of land
Some acres
on
of
lease.
land,
Yeah.
plant your
Good.
grass,
On lease.
and do
That
boreholes.
is what they-
Because
that is what
they
they
also
anti-open
need
grazing
meat. They also
bill.
need
I'm
meat.
going to ask
right?
you
Yes.
about the
Yes.
Benue,
It
the
built-
Benue
it
and
built-
Taraba.
yes,
is
it
not-
built in all of
integrated.
this.
It's integrated.
It's
Now,
integrated.
the community need beef, right? So you have your
We all
ranch.
need beef.
Good. You have your ranch in the community. You'll be producing some milk, beef, and cheese, right? So the community can, if we're properly ranching, young people can become entrepreneurs. You can begin to do locally, do cheese. Begin to package cheese and sell. You get from the ranch, you package your cheese and sell.
Do yogurt.
Good, do yogurt. The market will be growing.
Yeah.
And then it gives access to
the milk.
education.
You can get the milk and do so much with it. You can also begin to buy healthy beef, buy healthy cow, get an abattoir, package meats and sell. We import beef into this country. Go to ShopRite and see.
That's
Because they
the
look
content.
good.
Yeah.
But the ones we have here,
Eat it, you know that
just
there's
leave
a lot of
it,
difference.
once you slaughter the cow, within an hour or two that the beef have been broken into pieces, give it a little time, it will begin to turn black or gray, because you watch CNN and see how beef look in Japan. They don't eat any kind of grass. They take care of these cows. They even brush their... You see beef, you'll be held so soft. It looks good. You want to eat it raw.
Can you also
But
suggest
what do we do
the
here?
Audu Bako model?
What do we do
in
here? We
Kano?
have a president.
Who was Aduba?
Sorry.
One of those. I was
yes.
just hoping that you were...
Yeah, let me just round up. Now, like I said, Miyetti Allah certainly knows all their members. Across this country, they have good intelligence on their members. If you attack a Fulani man in Oron today, Mieti Allah will hear about it within 24 hours. They will know that something has happened to one of them. The president, who is also a member of Mieti Allah, not by presidency, but by nature, is a Fulani man. He's a cattle breeder. He has a ranch. Should call these people and begin to encourage them. Look, we can't be invading communities. Even if they kill your cow,
yes,
it's not an excuse.
In an attempt to promote your business.
Even if
Go
they
and
kill,
destroy another man's
even
business.
if they rustle your cattle, there are authorities you should report to. You shouldn't take the laws into your hand and then invade a community, kill innocent people. The people you killed are not the ones who killed your cow. And they are not the ones who rustled your cow. So if the president can begin to engage them and begin to organize them, then when they are organized and we hear that headsmen attack a community, we know where to go to. You know that this person, no, it can't be this man, it can't be that man. Then you begin to look elsewhere. But any other thing is double standard. First of all, I would like to see the government declare the violent headsmen a terrorist organization so that the military can intervene, and then we can use the full weight of the anti-terror law and act to engage them.
Fighting and
yes,
and crocodile can go and be smiling for them and dance for them and all of that.
In addition, yes. In addition, the Northern Governors Forum by now ought to have come up with a plan, because it's been a long-term problem. And very often when you hear people from the far north, governors from the far, or people from the far north talking, they are talking about grazing reserves, taking people's land. So what they need to do, even in the far northern states, where there is wide expanse of land, like how Bakos was thinking, earth dams and creating communities around them through irrigation. That is the way to go. So that even the mobility, part of it can even be arrested. Where you have these dams where people can water their cattle, you know, where people can also grow the fodder that they're going to give.
I'm not so sure the Fulani, the herdsmen even enjoy all the long trek.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Yeah. So I think the northern governors ought to also begin to look at this. Working together with, it's a failure of governance. And the point he made earlier on, which was when you were making the point about restructuring. See, I have argued, I think here before, that Boko Haram was allowed to breed because everybody comes to Abuja to come and take money. Mm-hmm. And in fact, people relocated. Local government chairmen relocated, governors relocated, members of the houses of assembly in the affected states, particularly Borno, relocated and were living here. And we're still having access to this allocation. And after they have settled whatever they needed to settle, nobody has asked them to account. Schools were closed.
So schools were not
spending on schools.
Facilities
were closed. A lot of things were closed where they ought to have, and there were budget heads for this each year. Where has the money gone to? But if you have if you have a restructured country where people generate their own revenue and you adopt fiscal federalism, nobody, no government is going to allow people to create problems that will make it impossible for them to generate revenue to run their government.
All right,
so it's still a failure.
Let me read the few tweets and see whether there will be anything to respond to quickly before we leave, because we have just 2 minutes or so to leave here. Ejiga Friday, I have to be blunt here that if the president can be silent over all the killings from Kaduna down to the south, my regards is winning. The UA for all victory. Brilliant discussion. To be blunt, government has failed. This is a big social issue. Let the #1 cattleman become serious with issues. Right now, he is joking with people's lives. And then Omogbona Bab CFR. Mr. Gbenga, anybody who has paid a visit to Obudu Cattle Ranch and Mambila will understand the economy of ranching heads. I saw cows at Obudu and I felt, wow. Yeah. If we can have an advocacy program that will sensitize herdsmen themselves, I'm sure they will see reasons. I think we'll probably pick it up as a challenge if we can get the Mieti Allah people so that we use them as the poster boys to begin to preach this gospel of ranching to their members. A.K. Sebastian Jr., ranching based on artificial irrigation will help the government address this issue of settlers, herdsmen, brouhaha. It's in the hands of federal government. And Ejiga Friday, Obodumu. The man in your studio understands the situation, but the Fulanese herdsmen do not believe they should buy grass. They see grass as free food. Again, I'm sure a lot of sensitization can also change that. If a government is quick to address IPOB, a terrorist organization, then it should use same hand to follow this herdsmen crisis. That's AK Sebastian Jr. If the government doesn't address this herdsmen crisis, we won't only have Boko Haram to worry alone, but a full-blown war. That's also AK Sebastian. All right. Omogbala Babs, so many other tweets coming from you. Andrew Ogboro, Mr. Gbega, I think it's odd to equate the cow to a human being. I also live close to Fulani herdsmen. The issue, well, I'm telling you from what I know, the Fulani boy, 2-year-old, wakes up in the morning, the first place he goes to is to the cow. And he has his breakfast
from the order.
Drinking straight milk from the cow.
Sure.
So there's an affinity between him and the cow. I don't want to say the other thing, which is to say that they even see them as
family,
as partners, you know, for the other the house and room duties.
Well,
thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I've been joined in this morning's discussions by Parisa Salas, Joseph Onu, is a legal practitioner based here in Abuja. He's going to be throwing his hat in the ring very soon.
Yes.
I wish you all the luck. Thank you so much. Thank you. And of course, Abba HMB is also a lawyer.
Thank you.
Richard came here this morning to warn me that it's not Abba. It's
Abba
HMB.
Just remember the city of Abba.
Yes, a lot of people think I'm too young to have a city named after me. And that's the problem. So when I tell them my name, they change it.
Okay, thank you so much, Abba.
Yes.
HMB.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
And thank you too for investing your time with us. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing.